Hi everyone, welcome back to this short tutorial from Pathology Made Simple at iLovePathology.com. In this session, let us learn a very important topic in cardiovascular pathology, that is infective endocarditis. This is the part 1 of infective endocarditis, where we will be discussing about the definition of infective endocarditis, the classification and the various risk factors of development of infective endocarditis, and most importantly we will understand the pathogenesis of infective endocarditis. So by definition, infective endocarditis is microbial infection of the valves of the heart, right? So microbial infection of the heart valves or the mural endocardium. Okay, so it will be either the heart valves or the mural endocardium, which leads to the formation of vegetations. Though we say mural endocardium, it is most commonly the heart valves which are affected. And that leads to the formation of vegetations. And these vegetations are basically composed of the thrombotic debris and organisms, which we'll be discussing in detail when we understand the pathogenesis. So, this infective endocarditis is often associated with destruction of the underlying cardiac tissues. So, coming to the epidemiology, majority of them are caused by the bacteria, and that's why it's often called as bacterial endocarditis. But it can be fungal or other microbial or due to other microbial agents. Broadly, infective endocarditis are categorized into acute infective endocarditis and subacute infective endocarditis. The acute infective endocarditis is usually infection of a previously normal heart valve, whereas subacute infective endocarditis is insidious infections of the deformed valves. And the normal heart valves are affected or infected by a very highly virulent organism like Staphylococcus aureus. Whereas subacute endocarditis are usually caused by a low virulent organism like Viridans streptococci. Most importantly, we should know that acute endocarditis, which is caused by highly virulent organism, they rapidly produces destructive lesions, whereas there is not much destruction in subacute endocarditis. Because it's highly virulent, antibiotics alone may not help in these cases, often require surgery, whereas subacute endocarditis, it is often cured by antibiotics or with antibiotics alone. So, I mean, you cannot strictly say whether it is acute or subacute. Most of these cases fall along the spectrum in between these two forms of endocarditis. Now, what are all the risk factors for the development of endocarditis? We can broadly categorize into cardiac valvular abnormalities and certain host factors. What are the cardiac valvular abnormalities? They can be diseased heart due to a rheumatic heart disease, could be mitral valve prolapse, could be bicuspid aortic valves and calcific valvular stenosis, and also include prosthetic heart valves. The various host factors include elderly individuals, patients with neutropenia or any immunodeficiency disorders, patient with malignancies because they cause underlying immunodeficiency as well. Could be people, diabetics or even pregnancy, and alcohol and intravenous drug abusers are at high risk for the development of infective endocarditis. The transient bacteremia is the most important feature for the development of infective endocarditis because we need to have bacteria in circulation for them to go and get attached onto the valves, right? And what are all the situations where transient bacteremia can occur? It could be as simple as the dental procedures. It could be due to urinary catheterization, gastrointestinal endoscopies, and various other obstetric procedures. Many of these conditions or many more such conditions can result in transient bacteremia, which are the predisposing factors for infective endocarditis. Three important causative organisms you need to remember. One is Staphylococcus aureus, Streptococcus viridans, and Enterococci, which are the most common organisms for the development of infective endocarditis. Let's talk about these organisms. Firstly, Staphylococcus. This is the most common cause of infective endocarditis arising in the healthcare settings and in intravenous drug users. As we have already told, this is the most virulent organism which can attack healthy as well as the deformed valves, often presents as acute infective endocarditis. And remember, this is the most common cause of infective endocarditis in most higher income countries. The second one, Streptococcus viridans, in community acquired infective endocarditis, 50 to 60% of cases are caused by Streptococcus viridans, which is less virulent. It can attack healthy as well as the deformed valves, but it most often presents as subacute infective endocarditis. So, what are the other groups other than these three organisms? The other groups include HACEK group. H stands for Haemophilus, Actinobacillus, Cardiobacterium, Echinella, and Kingella. These are the group of organisms which are normally oral cavity commensals. They can also cause infective endocarditis. Very rarely, gram-negative bacilli and even fungi can cause infective endocarditis. But remember, in around 10% of cases, you will not know what is the cause of infective endocarditis. That means there will be absolutely no cause, but still you can develop infective endocarditis. Now let's try to understand the pathogenesis. What causes infective endocarditis? So, four important things you have to remember if you want to understand the pathogenesis. The first one is endothelial damage. It has to be damaged for the organisms to come and sit. Right now, second important one is the pathogen access to the bloodstream. Normally, in the bloodstream, you should not have any pathogens. So, the second important thing is pathogen access to the bloodstream. The third one, even though you have endothelial damage, even though you have pathogen access, this pathogen should adhere onto the endothelium. That's a third important factor. The fourth one is once they adhere onto the endothelium, it has to proliferate for it to cause vegetations. Right? So these four important factors. Let's talk about one by one. The first one is endothelial damage. So normal endothelium is resistant to infection unless the organism is highly virulent, for example, Staphylococcus aureus. When I say endothelium, which means the outer lining of the endocardium. Okay, endocardium is actually composed of the endothelium, then the subendothelial tissue or the collagen tissue, right? So, what are the causes of endothelial damage? It could be turbulent blood flow, usually around abnormal or prosthetic valves. The damage can be because of autoantibodies, for example, in autoimmune diseases. The damages can be because of inflammation injury, and most common being the rheumatic carditis, which I'll be discussing in great detail in subsequent sessions. And endothelial damage can happen in direct insults as well, right? Now, now you know that the endothelium is damaged because of so and so factors, right? Now, where the damage is most likely seen in the endothelial surface, and which part of the endothelium is most likely damaged? Two important parts. One, at the points of closure of the valves. Second, upstream face of the valve. Two important areas where the endothelial damage is most likely seen. Now, what do you mean by points of closure? See, if you see the valve from above, this is the tricuspid valve, three cusps, right? And this is the point of closure, okay, where there will be more pressure onto the free surfaces of the valve. So the points of closure are places where the damage is most likely seen. Second important one is upstream face of the valve. What do you mean by that? Which means the side facing the incoming jet of blood. For example, if the blood is flowing from atria to ventricle, which is normally, right? So, what is the area which is facing what is the valve surface which is facing this surface, right? So, this is the face, this is what is called as upstream phase of the valve. There, the incoming jet of blood is being faced by the upstream phase, which also causes high velocity turbulent flow, which means these are the areas which are more prone for the damage. So, what are the upstream phase of the valve? It is atrial side of the atrioventricular valves. These are mitral valve and tricuspid valve, right? So the atrial side of these AV valves are the upstream phase, whereas the ventricular side of the semilunar valves, usually of these vessels, pulmonary artery and then the aorta, right? So the semilunar valves, the upstream phase is the ventricular side of the semilunar valve. So these are the areas where the damage is most likely seen. Now, now that we know the cause of endothelial damage, now that we know where endothelial can be damaged, now let us see what happens when the endothelium is damaged. Let's try to understand this by a schematic representation. Imagine this is a fenestrated endothelium, and then beneath the endothelium, you have collagen. It's normal histology, right? Now, if the endothelium is damaged because of all the factors which I told you, it exposes the subendothelial matrix. So, once the subendothelial matrix is exposed, what happens? Triggers the aggregation of the platelets and the fibrin deposition. That's the second point. The second part, right? The subendothelial collagen is exposed. Platelets aggregate along with the fibrin deposition, and that over a period of time it causes a thrombus, and that is a sterile thrombus. No bacteria, no infections whatsoever. It is a sterile thrombus. Okay, so and this thrombus, remember, is the nidus for the colonization of the microbial agents. Okay, this is the first part of pathogenesis of infective endocarditis, which is what we see, which is what we learned, right? Exposure of the endothelial matrix, platelet aggregation and fibrin deposition, and causing a sterile thrombus, which acts as nidus. Second one, pathogen access to the bloodstream. How does pathogen enter the bloodstream? We know that the norm we know that normally the bloodstream is sterile, right? So we have seen that the bacteremia can be caused due to all these procedural procedures, right? So the pathogens will get access to the bloodstream by these procedures. Okay, so look at this. These are the cocci which have access to the bloodstream, and now the third important point is once the pathogen is circulating in the bloodstream, and then you have the endothelium which is damaged, and there is a nidus which is waiting for the pathogen for it to adhere. Okay, the third important part of pathogenesis is pathogen adherence. Where do they adhere? They adhere to the damaged valve or the sterile thrombus. Now, what are the facilitating factors for adhesion of the organisms on to the endothelium or the damaged valve? One, endothelium gets activated because of the damage. And what happens when it is activated? There is regulation of adhesion molecules, VCAM, ICAM1, and E-selectin. The second one is the bacteria bind to the fibronectin. What is this fibronectin? The fibronectin binding proteins will be seen on the bacterial surface, which binds to the fibronectin of the host. And some bacteria also have extracellular polysaccharides that help in sticking of these organisms to the exposed endothelium or the sterile thrombus. Now the platelet is, the pathogen adherence has happened, right? Look at this. This is what has happened. The bacteria gets adhered to the endothelial surface as well as onto the sterile thrombus. And finally, the attached bacteria will start proliferating within the thrombus. Okay, and that is the last stage of pathogenesis of infective endocarditis, where there is proliferation of the pathogen, and that proliferated mass is called as vegetation. What is vegetation? They are composed of layers of platelets, fibrin, leukocytes, red blood cells, and the organisms, right? And the organisms. So this is what you see. You find the organisms. You find various leukocytes. You find the RBCs, the platelets, and the fibrin mesh is already there, and this is what is known as vegetations. Now these vegetations can spread locally and can destroy the underlying tissue. They can break and then form a septic emboli because this is an infective mass, right? And thirdly, the destruction and perforation of the valves can occur, leading on to regurgitation. I hope by now you would have understood the concepts of pathogenesis of ischemic heart disease, right? So we saw that there are various predisposing factors which can lead to endothelial damage, which further leads to exposure of subendothelial collagen. There is formation of sterile thrombi with platelets and fibrin. Now, on the other side, there is bacteremia because of the various sources of bacteria which I had mentioned. And these bacteria, which is freely flowing inside the bloodstream, adhere on to the sterile thrombi, leading on to the formation of endocarditis or and vegetations. Vegetation is the proliferated mass which is comprised or composed of the thrombi, the fibrin, the organisms, the RBCs, and the WBCs. Okay, that is the vegetation. So this completes the understanding of pathogenesis of infective endocarditis. Right? We talked about risk factors and we understood in detail about the pathogenesis. Thank you for watching. If you have liked the video, please hit on the like button. Do comment if you have any queries to ask. And if you find this video useful, do consider subscribing and do not forget to share. Remember, in the next session, I will be discussing about the morphological features of infective endocarditis and the clinical features. Till then, stay tuned. Bye bye.